up, everybody? Welcome to the first ever fan connection interview, and we're here today with ADT to ask him some questions and pick his brain.
First question we got for you, bro. Who was your first opponent in the square circle?
First ever time that I was wrestling, if we're going all the way back, it was for a company known as HCW. It was Hillbilly Tilly, who is now the general manager of AWL. And back in those days, it was, it wasn't necessarily a match. There was no structure. There was no, psychology going into it. It was 4 minutes of you doing spots and, whatever royalty-free music you could put over a match. That's what the entire match was. But my first match in a ring, though, was against Jason Storm of ROEW, and that was about a year ago.
So, I want to take it back a little bit. I want to talk about Endgame, when you faced Christopher James in the main event. What did that mean to you?
It meant the world to me. AWL has been a part of my life ever since, 2013, and seeing the way that the company has progressed as far as, going from strictly a backyard show to now, I would say, and this can be biased, of course, but seeing it now where it's getting looked at less of a yard promotion and more of a independent but outside promotion, that's something that's huge to me. And Endgame was one of those shows where, we had a live venue, we had a live crowd, and it was a big moment for me and a lifetime friend to share. And being able to share that with people that I've known for so long and just seeing what we were able to accomplish with Endgame, it really meant the world to me.
It was special to watch it. I had heard you performed in the Spartan Arena yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday I made my return to Spartan Pro Wrestling. Last time I was there, it was right before Endgame. Me and Christopher James, we had a showcase match for the AWL Heavyweight Championship. First match, actually, I guess, I don't know if we would consider myself as a Spartan wrestler now. But first match, I got thrown to the Wolves. I was in the Halloween Hardcore Rumble match for the Hardcore Championship. It was fun. I had my work cut out against me. Onyx and I started the match, and who's better than number 3 to come out than his tag team partner Valor? And I got a nice little welcome to Spartan Pro Wrestling by getting the shit stomped out of me. But all in all, it's not every day you get to crack open someone with brass knuckles and get to enjoy just having fun. Y'all saw the photos. I dressed up as Cactus Jack. I had my own shit that I have been sitting on for way too long. And however, it was fun.
So what wrestler inspired you the most growing up, or athlete in general?
I would say if we're talking wrestlers, man, I feel like it's a cliche answer for people that's our age. Everyone's gonna say Jeff, right? Especially if you're starting in a backyard, Jeff Hardy is one of the number one things or people you're gonna draw inspiration from. But I'm not gonna lie, Shawn Michaels is a brain that I like to pick. Anytime I go and watch matches that are old, I always find myself going to the Brett versus Shawn Iron Man match, WrestleMania 12. I always, I will preach that to the heavens. It's a good way of showing that less is more, as long as you take your time, you slow it down, and all that stuff. If I had to go off of more modern day, since especially there was such a huge resurgence in my love for professional wrestling, Kenny Omega. I loved watching Bullet Club and seeing what they had to offer, and it was just a nice, fresh taste of professional wrestling. And
that's a different answer than most people give too.
All good choices.
It's a good answer. It's a different answer.
So I think me and him are both curious. Where does the nickname the Kingpin come from? Where does it stem from?
So, I try to live by a mantra when it comes to professional wrestling, as far as everything can be an inspiration. You don't have to just go from wrestling. You can go from, comic books, superhero movies, action movies, stuff like that. You know, not trying to throw shade at anyone, but trying to sit there and say that you can only get inspiration from a handful of places, and that's just wrestling, that's very closed-minded. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with Marvel, but there was a Netflix series called Daredevil, and the main protagonist in that is Wilson Fisk as Kingpin. And the thing is about him, and you'll see this trait amongst everyone that I've drawn inspiration from, is the thing is as soon as he steps on camera, you know that something's going to go down. It's just a matter of when and how bad it's going to be. Even me being a good guy at this point in time, still though, the being unpredictable is one of those things that, kind of made me start going towards that whole Kingpin thing. And it also kind of helped too that at the time when I adapted to that nickname, it was during my run with the Black Flag Army. It was my group, me, Dylan Andrews, AJ Morgan, and there was a need for a leader, but also at the same time, leader just is cliche. Everyone calls themselves the leader. How many people are calling themselves the Kingpin?
Well, over the years, who's been your toughest opponent that you faced?
If I'm being honest, it's a tie between AJ and Christopher James. Mainly just because we've done it so many times. And if I'm being honest too, me and CT's always had fun, but the last match was probably the toughest that me and him's had together. But I've done more stipulation matches with Morgan and Chris than I can name, so
Both tough guys.
oh yeah.
So going back to the start of your answer for that question, the Black Flag, I want to talk about Dylan Andrews.
I can so for those who are unfamiliar with it, Dylan Andrews was the he was one of the members of Black Flag Army. And until just recently, he was one of the least decorated members of it. And that's not a dog on him. If we're pointing out simple facts here, by the time Black Flag Army broke up, I was already a two-time AWL heavyweight champion. I was a new division champ. I was the most active for both of those. AJ, first or second ever new division champion, he was very active with it, and he was a heavyweight champion as well, but he was out with an injury. And also too though is one of the things that led to the whole me kind of imploding on everyone, if that makes sense, is I was facing Travis Hunt. I beat him for the heavyweight title. AJ came out, tried to save him. I was confused as to why we would be so helpful to a man who took a title from you, and I lashed out. That being said too is by the time AJ came back and he was like, you know what, I'll be there for Endgame. You got attacked there too. And if you asked me then, why did I do what I did? It was simple. The whole idea of Black Flag Army was to take over AWL, take all the titles, make sure that we were the only force in AWL.
Right.
But, as far as Black Flag Army, it was one of those things that was bound to break up at one point. And it was only a matter of when. The group never really had any chemistry. The entire time, there was only one tag match. It was me and Dylan. It seemed like me and Dylan were on the same page all the way up until the very end, where Retribution, he did what he did. I'm sure by the time this comes out, I will have already addressed my future with AWL. But point being is, I don't know what's next for me here in AWL, and I don't know if I just kind of coast and appear every now and again, or because everyone's always wondering, when am I that's one of the number one things I hear from other people is are you going indie? Are you gonna stay doing AWL? Are you gonna try to do a number of the two? And I'm always kind of big on creating my own path, so I'm sure everyone will be able to see how that plays out. And the thing is, too, when it comes to, like, trying to figure out what's next, I don't have a decorate, like, to some people, yeah, sure, everything I've done might be crazy, but especially when you know the whole story, like, it's impressive to some people to see what I've built for myself and, you know, how I've been able to go about it. But that being said, like, I'm still young. I'm 23 years old, and I have a lot more time to really try and, you know, get better, not only at professional wrestling, but also at the same time of, you know, you've seen it here recently, me trying to just be a better person on camera. And one of the good things about any, like, to kind of pull back the curtain for listeners too, one of the best things you can be as a professional wrestler is adaptable, and, you know, being able to be the square peg that can fit anywhere. And whether that's, you know, if you're needed as a heel, if you're needed as a face, if you're needed as, you know, a top guy, if you're needed as a mid-card guy, knowing how to put people over, knowing how to do the job when it's necessary, and also knowing how to go out there and put on a good show, whether that's for a live crowd or whether that's for, you know, a backyard with 6 people and a camera, it don't matter. And as far as what's next for me, I mean, you know, I said it's kind of up in the air. It's one of those things where, you know, you wanted it for so long, you heard so many people, because I'm sure y'all have experienced it too, where, you know, you say you're going to start something, you're going to start doing something, there's obviously doubters, and there's people who will try to, you know, belittle you and question, you know, why are you doing all this? Right. And at the end of the day, the only answer you really have is you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for yourself, and you're doing it because you like to do it. That's my whole thing. And as long as I keep having fun with professional wrestling, I'm going to be around for a while.
So, is fun and personal enjoyment the only thing that makes ADT tick, or could you further explain your mindset, like how you're feeling before you go out for a contest?
If you're a professional wrestler and you're about to go out, whether there's 5 people or 250 people, and you're not getting butterflies, if you stop getting that feeling, it's time for you to stop. It's time for you to stop. You can get numb to certain feelings. I will never not feel butterflies when I'm about to hit a curtain. It doesn't matter if it's back here. It doesn't matter if it's in Spartan. It doesn't matter if it's something as, you know, no offense to ROEW, but it doesn't matter if it's something as tiny as ROEW. It's one of those feelings that every time as soon as I hear my music, immediate, like, tunnel vision. And talking about what makes me tick, I mean, you know, having fun is obviously high up there. Making moments is up there. And another thing I always try to do is, like, when it comes to wrestling, if I'm trying to, you know, think outside of being a wrestler, and also, like, I always talk about tunnel vision, but trying to be like, all right, if I was a kid in this crowd, would I feel the same way about wrestling as I did back then? Like, I want to be an inspiration at some points, you know, but I think the main contributing thing is, like, you know, having fun, and you don't get all those feelings if you're not having fun.
So that's an honorable train of thought. But we want to thank you for
No problem.
appearing.
I appreciate you being on the show, man.
And answering our questions. But for this interview, that's about it.
That's it for us on this one.
Thank you for watching Fan Connection.